Greetings, and welcome back, or welcome for the first time, to another Arconia Dev Diary. Arconia is a twin-stick adventure that is kind of like Star Control 2 meets Geometry Wars. And this video is a diary of what I did, or what I've been working on for the last week. Well, it's been a long week, it's been a fun week, it's been an integration week. I started the week doing this procedural planet generator. And as you can see, I'm generating various looks of planet with various numbers of rocks rotating around them. And I kind of wanted to give you guys a little look behind the scenes into how we're doing this. So first of all, we have the textures. There are 4 planet textures and 3 gas textures, and we're basically just choosing one from each of those pools, throwing them together, and then changing the color on them. And that's stuff that Jake set up in his material, and it's a little bit voodoo to me. I don't do a lot of the material stuff right now, but he gave me the parameters, and it looks cool, and that was that. So now, the static orbitals, this is something that I can talk all day about. So we have this, it's an instanced static mesh component, and it has just one asteroid, basic 1. So actually every asteroid that you see in this demo, it's the same asteroid. I just haven't put in other instant static meshes that have the other asteroid types in them yet. So when it comes to the static orbitals, these are meant to spawn a large number of objects, like asteroid belts, around the planet. They're instants, so they're very performant. They're a single draw call. And I'm going to turn on this debug visualization to illustrate kind of how this works. I think it's pretty darn cool. Okay, so let's look at this guy. He's got a bunch of guys orbiting around him. Now these red things, this is the debug visualization. And so this is showing how I spawn, in what locations I spawn asteroids in. So you can see I have these 2 parameters, vertical degrees, horizontal degrees. So horizontal degrees being 360, that means that we're going to be spawning in 360 degrees around the planet, as you can see here. The vertical degrees being 90 means vertically we're going to be spawning 90 degrees. And you can see, yeah, that looks like 90 degrees. Now, the actual static meshes that were generated, they have a bit of a rotation on them. Here's an easier to see example. The debug helpers are just always drawn axis aligned. Just because I didn't really need them to be rotated. But after I generate these instant static meshes, I just give them a random rotation just because I think it adds interest, and then I rotate them around the planet. And so this, I just want to mention how cool this function is. vrand cone. There's 2 invocations for fmath vrand cone. And the second one actually lets you specify the horizontal and vertical half angles. And when I saw that, this is a good example of, I'm in my bed, I'm trying to fall asleep, I'm reading the GitHub source, and I find this second invocation of vrand cone, and I think, man, that would actually be perfect for spawning things around a planet. And so it's like the math inspired the design. So this is exactly what I use, and if we go to my, let's see, planet hotspot, you can see every tick when I draw this debug visualization. All it is I'm getting the center of the planet, that's where I start the line, and then the end of the line is center plus this vrand cone. And I'm just taking this random direction, which is just the direction of the axis, and getting the horizontal degrees and the vertical degrees from the blueprint. Horizontal degrees, vertical degrees. So that's a pretty sweet little math function. And that's kind of the basis of these static orbitals. Now you can change the number of objects that are spawned. So let's see. Let's just try to make an interesting look here. So let's do a ton, like 500 to 1,000. It's not really a ton, but it's a lot. And then maybe 0.1 to 0.2, so they'll be kind of small. And then we'll spawn them. Let's do like 180 degree shell and 300 horizontal. And then this is an interesting. See, now for the orbital distance, if you go too small, it'll spawn inside the planet. So if I do 700, that might be too small, I don't know. And then rotation speed, yeah, that's fine. Okay, so this is the top left planet. So let's randomize. Boom. Hey, that's kind of cool. Let's take a closer look. That's kind of cool. You can't really tell that it's only 300 degrees because, yeah, just because there's a lot. But so you can kind of see some of the possibilities behind this. Let's make some more. So basically, every time I hit spacebar, it just randomizes all the parameters. And sometimes you'll notice that it spawns and there aren't any rocks. And that's because I also have this thing called dynamic orbitals. And when it generates everything, it chooses either static orbitals or dynamic orbitals. And since right now I have dynamic orbitals set, the max is 2, so it never generates anything. So let me show you this. Let's say you wanted an asteroid that was orbiting a planet, or a moon, or a comet, or a spaceship, or really anything. That's what dynamic orbitals are. They're a single actor that gets spawned that then gets rotated around the planet. So you can see the little blue streaks. Those are the random dynamic orbitals. And, you know, actually, if you wanted to, you could spawn one of these planets as an orbital. Be like planet inception. I'm not going to do that because there's a potential that would be an infinite loop, and I would have to think a little more about that before I tried it. But so you can see, you know, you could do dynamic orbitals. You could even very easily make these look like, you know, atoms with electrons orbiting at various various valence shell, you know, get chemistry on this, the SPDF valence shells. Anyways, that's static and dynamic orbitals. And I guess that's it for the procedural planets. That's about it. So, just some other asteroids. So Jake gave me 3 asteroids, and then also these what are called hero asteroids, which are just asteroids that are meant to be spawned larger. Pretty sweet looking little rocks. But let me show you the next piece of integration I did, which is probably the most exciting, and that is the hero ship. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so what you're seeing here, besides me not building my lighting, is the ship. And each ship chassis has a number of module slots on it. Gun modules and utility modules. And so Jake made me, I think I have 2 different guns. I've got maybe 4 or 5 different modules. And I've got 4 chassis. So here, this is the small chassis. It's got a little upgrade in the back. It adds a couple more gun mounts. So if we go back to the small, you'll see as it is randomly generating modules to place, it doesn't have the rear guns. Then boom, you got the rear gun module slots. And then we got this is the 3rd upgrade. So small, medium, small, medium. You see it adds a little section to the bottom of the ship as you go to that medium. And then the big beefy, boom, there's the large. It's so big it doesn't even fit on the screen. So that's the large, and it has just a ton of module points. So this integration took me a great deal of thought because I wanted to have something really flexible and I'll just show you a little bit. I'll just talk a little bit about this because I think it's pretty cool. Okay, hero ship. Okay, the first thing to note, let me just collapse all these and show you the root object. This root object is just a sphere, and it's what I use to actually fly the ship around. The reason why is that I wanted to be able to bank and turn the ship independent of the direction that it's traveling. And I'll show you that when we actually play the game. So you can see the starter chassis, and then these other chassis are grouped underneath it. If you don't have a chassis, boom, I hide it. That's all I'm doing in game. I just have some code that says, oh, okay, you're on the starter chassis. I'm going to hide all the other chassis. And then as you get them, you know, they become visible. Now, obviously, there's never a time where you would like have the starter chassis and the medium chassis, because that was not a combination that was ever meant to exist. So there's that. Now, for each chassis, I have these helper objects. So here is a small module mount point, as you can see. So that is a location where a module can be placed. And the reason why there are separate ones for each chassis is because, for instance, this small chassis, you'll notice this mount point is a little buried. But if I hide the large chassis and I hide the medium chassis, boom, okay, yeah, you can see that you indeed would see that when it's mounted. And so each chassis has its own set of mount points for weapons and modules. So this leads me to the next piece, and that is the data. The data for that. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I finally started it, a Google Docs spreadsheet that has the starter, small, medium, and large mount point information in it. And then I export to CSV and just slap it in. It's awesome. So the entire game, what I want is for the entire game to be data driven with these spreadsheets. Because you can see, let me explain this. Okay, let's do large chassis. The large chassis has 10 weapon mounts on it. These are the names, and they're in order from 0 to 9. So the first weapon you install will go to turret mount 1. If that's full, turret mount 2, etc. For each weapon mount, I also have defined a scale. So for instance, weapon mount 0 is at the very tip of the ship, and it has a scale factor of 0.5. So any gun you put there is going to be scaled. The scale will be multiplied by 0.5. Similar for 7, 8, and 9, they are going to be a little larger. So let me just show you those. So the large chassis, turret mount 3, this is, oh sorry, that's not large chassis. Okay, large turret mount 2. And it might help if we, boop, turn that on. So you can see this turret mount at the top, that has a scale factor of 1.2, and these ones on the side. So anything that gets spawned on those is going to be a little bigger in terms of gun size. Sure enough. So see, these are the exact same gun, but scale factor of 1.2, I think. Yeah, 1.2 versus a scale factor of 1, just to kind of beef things up as you're upgrading. And, you know, we haven't really finalized any of these scales. You know, we might want a ship that has ridiculously unrealistic scales, you know, where, well, that's a little too ridiculous, or is it? Anyways, you get the point. So we're going data driven. At some point, I want to have basically the entire game in a Google document where we can go in and we can calculate and you know, make things better and have an easier interface to edit them without hiding things either in code where only I can get to it, or in some obscure blueprint parameters that you know, blueprint parameters, they tend to change if you ever make changes to the base class. And so I've had times where I've compiled some changes to a class, and I go in and I realize all my blueprint variables have been reset because I changed the data type or something. So, you know, I don't want to have to the thought of going in and entering this data more than once for the large chassis makes me want to kill myself. So that's why this stuff just needs to be data driven. Anyways, so moving on, let me show you the ship flying around, because it's pretty cool too. Let's do system test 1. Oh wait, hold on. Let me make sure. Sometimes I forget to set these visible again, and then it just screws up everything. So let me make sure everything's visible. And let's do system 1. Okay. So. None. My system. Okay, check this out. This is Arconia, the planet Arconia that Jake's made. I think it looks awesome. And here's our ship, and you can see it does two things. It rotates to the direction that you're moving, obviously, and it banks. And so I have this banking code in there, and you know, it's preliminary, but I'm pretty happy with how it looks. So let's beefy things up. And let's see, throw a couple more guns onto the ship. Power system. I'm gonna add 2 power systems. I want to show you what the guns look like when I shoot, because they look because they turn, you know, and stuff. So you can see, I think it looks cool when you're flying around because you see these guns and then they're like, you know, they're rotating and. Oh, let me turn that sound down so it doesn't come through the mic. So, anyways, a little scanning. I don't know. I'm liking the way the look is coming together. Oh, look out. Here, this is a good opportunity. Where's my cloak? Cloak. Okay. Anytime you see, oops, that's a bug. I forgot to hide the turrets when you cloak. That's kind of funny. All right, well, that'll just help me see where I am. It's kind of a feature at this point. Anytime you see cubes in a prototype of mine, you should take warning, because they're, you know, something's going on there that's in early stages. So I basically created this new enemy type it basically just chases you, and they're these evil cubes that are infecting the universe with their cubiness. And so they have this spawn point, and what I wanted to illustrate is, so they chase me. If I cloak, they basically return home. And if I can destroy their spawn point, it's like a hub. So if you've seen Battlestar Galactica, you know, the place where the Cylons, they respawn. That's kind of what this is. So if I can take that out, boom, now all of these guys have been deactivated, and now they're just gonna kind of float through space. And, you know, I feel bad for them now, but they shouldn't have been trying to kill me, because I had to take drastic action. So that's a new enemy type under prototype. Oh, here's another one. And if you have a cloaker, it's kind of nice because you can hit it, and then you can follow him to his home world and start handling things. I'd like to come up with ways that you could defeat these guys without using weapons. You know, so if you're a stealth player, you might want to cloak in and do something to disable their base that doesn't just involve blaring guns. Anyways, I think I've rambled enough. Thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them on the Unreal Engine forums or in a comment on the video. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.